are on. We are on the Speak Your Truth with Mark Ross podcast. I am your host, Mark Ross, and with me this evening is Mr. Matt Potratz.
You got it, man. Good job.
Okay.
Potratz.
All right, Potratz. Thank you so much, Brother Matt, for coming on and taking the time to have me interview you about your story. For those that are unaware, which most of you are, probably all of you are, Matt was involved in a avalanche accident a few years ago, and the incident, of course, changed his life. He reached out to me and wanted to share his story, so here we are. And I thank you again, brother, for taking the time out to talk about your incident, because I mean, who can say I survived an avalanche? You know what I mean?
Not very many people.
Not
There's a
very many
few,
people
but
can, right? Not very many people can say that. So, uh, before we get into that, because we are going to get into that, you were once a pro level snowmobile rider.
Yep.
Is that right?
Yes.
Now, talk about how you got involved into that, and then from there, go into your incident, please.
Well, I fell in love with the sport in high school and started riding snowmobiles with my dad. He had my parents owned a small resort in our
Mm,
hometown, and they had a snowmobile rental fleet. And so on
mm,
the days off when the sleds are available, we take them out as a family and get to ride them a little bit. And I totally fell in love with it. So when I got to college, I got a decent job on the side and got myself my first brand new snowmobile, and just absolutely that season I just fell in love with it. I rode 3,800 miles that one season, that first season, and everything just took off from there. Then I got into power sports. I owned a small dealership for a while. I sold snowmobiles and sold ATVs and dirt bikes and stuff like that. And then I got into sales at another dealership after that, and became really well known for snowmobile sales, snowmobile tuning, and just got a lot of time on the snow. And then I got noticed. Somebody from the film company heard I could ride, and actually they heard my buddy Tim could ride,
mm,
and they asked him to come ride with him, and he said, "Well, I have a buddy that you're most likely also going to want to have on camera. We should bring him too." And so they agreed to bring me, and then once after that first film shoot, the calls just kept coming in. They said, "Come back for more," and then eventually I rode in 7 different snowmobile motion pictures. I was one of the top athletes in each film, and became top probably 15 or 20 in the film circuit,
mm,
and got to ride with the top 5 guys in the world, and got to see some incredible country. Over 20,000 miles of seat experience across all Western U.S. and Canada, BC, Canada. Got to go on film shoots and just extreme rides, and got to see awesome territory.
eh,
And then we always took a little bit of risk, right? We had to be on the edge in order to make good footage for the camera. And we were filming a hill climb segment March 2009, and I set off a large avalanche. And the avalanche set me off a little bluff and crushed me into a big tree and buried me. And they dug me out with locator beacons. We use avalanche beacons where everybody wears a beacon in a
okay.
pocket against our base layer on our chest.
Yes.
And the beacons all day long transmit the same signal. So that if someone goes down, the group pulls theirs out, switches to search mode, leaving one beacon in transmit mode, which of course in this case my beacon. So my beacon transmitting that signal to their beacons, told them which direction to walk and how far it was, and they found my fingers sticking out of the snow.
Mm,
But I don't think you find a pair of fingers on a mountainside full of snow without some kind of guidance. So that beacon saved my life. They found my fingers sticking out of the snow, and they dug down. I'm a pretty tall guy, but I was down about a full arm's depth, and they dug down a full arm's depth to find my body. They found my ears, nose, mouth packed with snow. They knew they had
mm,
to get my airway opened up right away
mm, mm, mm,
because they knew there's only one chance, right? Took a finger and fish shook the snow out of my mouth, got my airway opened up, and I was breathing, but making like a lot of weird wheezing noises and hissing noises and barely breathing. And they're like, "Man, we've got to get help." So they rushed to the top of the ridge of the cell phone. My best friend was on top of the ridge of the cell phone calling for a helicopter. And right then it started snowing hard. Like I guess you could say the weather decided it was going to replenish the snow that slid off the
yeah.
mountain, right?
Yeah.
So it started snowing hard. So my friends up there in a windy snowstorm. My other friends are down my body. It starts snowing, and so there's a perfect lake bed right by the avalanche site. They could have landed the helicopter, but the helicopter flew as far as they could, and they couldn't fly any further. They got rejected by the snowstorm. They had to retreat to the nearest airport. And so the new plan was they'd already dispatched a ground crew as a backup plan with a sled going across the ground. And so they began to tow the sled across the ground, and we were way back in the backcountry. So my friends had to watch me lay there unconscious and wheezing, making weird noises
Hmm.
for
Hmm.
an hour and a half, 90 minutes waiting for ground crew to arrive. When ground crew got there, they immediately said, "Man, this is bad. We have to get a helicopter out here if possible." And so they made a second attempt to fly and they still couldn't fly. They flew as far as they could. This time they got to Brundage Ski Hill, which is a nearby ski resort. They landed there in the parking lot, and then they got me strapped to a rescue sled, began to tow me across the snow to the ski hill. And the snow broke enough to get the helicopter in the sky and route to Boise, this capital city of Idaho, to St. Alphonsus Medical Center. And the helicopter landed on the helipad 5 hours from the time of the avalanche. And right on the helipad of the hospital, they took the gurney out of the helicopter, and what they all feared happened. I essentially had died. I stopped breathing. Of course, they rushed around, resuscitated me, got me breathing again, and pushed me
Yeah.
into ER to discover it was bad news. And before we move on, do you have any more questions about the day on the snow or anything? Or
Yeah. Well, I was just going to ask, uh, did the snowfall surprise you, or was it something that you saw coming and you just couldn't avoid?
well, I have no memory of it. It's good. I'm glad I don't have memory of it because I can't have PTSD or flashbacks or anything because I have nothing to flashback
Mm.
to.
Hmm.
But the whole, I guess you could say God has a way of making our brains not remember that stuff. But
Mm.
I lost I have memory leading up to the avalanche, about 2 hours prior to the avalanche. I have memory, but then I have nothing of the avalanche, nothing of climbing the hill, nothing of seeing the hill, nothing. So, but I watched myself on film, so I know that it broke off 25 yards because they were filming that day. It
Hmm.
broke off 25 yards above me and fractured about 2.5 feet deep, and the snow just consumed me in no time. There's nothing I could do because there's so much snow, and so then it sent me off a little wall of rock there, and then crushed me to the tree. And so I really couldn't. I could have done nothing to outrun it or get away from it. It was above me, and it was just consumed me. So
Mm. Mm. Wow. Uh, did you, I mean, did you thought to yourself, wow, I'm going to die. I mean, I'm not going to make it.
well, I have no memory of that, zero. So not even like
Jeez.
getting to the hospital. I have nothing because I was um, when they got to the hospital, they pushed me in the yard, discovered I had a broken neck and femur and ribs and collapsed lung and brain damage, and I was in a comatose state, unconscious to that point, and I remained in that coma for a long time. So it wasn't until day 41 they said my brain was officially out of comatose state. So at that point, I still have no memory. About day 45, I have some real foggy memory of coming out of it, and I had no memory of it. I had memory leading up to it, so I knew I was right at that level. I knew I was taking some risk. I knew there was a chance of that happening, right? But I had no idea that it happened. So they explained to me why I was in the hospital, what had happened to me, and what the prognosis was. And so, and I mean, I have a paralyzed left arm. And they had explained to me why my arm was hanging dead, and so
Hmm.
it was a pretty interesting experience to wake up after losing 45 days of your life. Because I had no out of body experience or memories or hear people talking, nothing like that, right? I just lost 45 days of my life and there was laying in the hospital, unsure of why I was there.
So you you got rescued, and thank God it didn't take that long. But you said hours went by, and you pretty much coded during
Yep.
all this.
I did
You had
code.
to
Yep.
dig. Sorry, go ahead.
I did code. Yes. I stopped breathing. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And they had to practically scoop the snow and from out of your nose probably and your mouth, and
Hmm.
you know administer CPR to get you back going. Talk about your your recovery at the hospital, because I remember you said that you told me during our initial interview that you were pretty much in a coma at that time, and you were in the coma for 41 days.
41 days. Yeah. Yeah.
41 days, man.
You know,
And
and I started kind of having I showed some signs of life at day 27, but then I would come out of the coma a little bit and then drift back in. So I wasn't fully out of comatose state till day 41. But um, you know, to for my family to not lose faith and to believe that there is hope, you know, day two in the coma, the doctor they because I was unconscious at that point, I'd shown no signs of life, and so even when you're in a comatose state or unresponsive state, you should show some signs that you're aware of pain, and they do what's called painful stimuli. So on day two, they did painful stimuli where they're hoping to get some. You should flinch or shake or flutter, move some way to show you're aware of that pain. And so they began to shake me and prod me and move me and show just inflict pain, like dig into my fingernails and do
Mm,
things to make pain happen, right? And I showed no indication I was aware of that.
mm,
So the doctor reported to my family, said, "Look, it doesn't look good here."
mm,
He said, he showed no signs of life, no signs of indication he was aware of that. So we're gonna try one last thing. We're gonna hook a brain scan to Matt. With the scan on his brain, we'll again inflict pain in him.
mm,
And he said, "Look, if the scan doesn't show some kind of response, we're in trouble here. If there's any hope here at all, his brain has to respond to our input." And so they agreed, and so they hooked the scan on my brain, began to again poke me, prod me, shake me, and inflict pain in me, and the scan showed nothing excited about. The last thing the doctor did to confirm it is he picked up my left leg, my broken leg, and my
mm,
shattered femur had not been fully treated yet.
mm.
Picked it up off the table a little ways and just
Yeah,
dropped it like free fall whack.
like a thud.
I don't think I got to tell you that would cause extreme pain, right? And the scan didn't show anything to get excited about. So he's gathered my family to meet with him and said, "Look," I said, I know it's hard to hear this, but he said Matt is technically alive because the machine is breathing for him, but he said outside of that, as near as I can tell, Matt is essentially brain dead. He said
Mm,
if I pull the cord, he's gone. But my family just had so much faith and refused to go there yet. My dad even said, he said, "I'm sorry, but I know if Matt were in my shoes, he would not give up on me this soon. I want a second opinion." And so during that time frame, my family put out phone calls, texts, emails, every message form across the nation with one message: just pray, right? Matt's dying, pray. In fact, even across the world, 'cause my mom's family happened to be world missionaries. And they had teams in India and I think Africa, and I think it was a couple countries like that praying for me as well. So literally prayers went up across the world. My dad gathered some closest friends from the wedding area, went down the room and went in the room and laid hands on me. And at this point, just begging God for mercy because I'm essentially dead.
mm,
And
mm.
they've been there about an hour and a half. They started kind of all agree they might just have to accept reality that they need to say goodbye and let me go and walk away. And but then get a friend of mine, John Heston, who also used to ride snowmobiles professionally in the films as well. He was in the room. He spoke up and said, "Guys, I don't know why, but I have this weird feeling like Matt knows we're in the room, like he knows we're here. Why don't we see what happens if we try to get him a response? Give it a shot if we try." And they agreed, okay, sure, why not, right? And so they
Mm.
got right. John got right in my face and yelled loud, "Matt, it's John. If you can hear me, raise your right leg." I couldn't raise my leg, but to their shock, they're like, it shook, it moved. Like I tried.
Yeah,
He tried to move his
yeah,
leg. He tried, right?
yeah.
And so they played it on a bit more, got me to lightly squeeze a hand. And of
Mm,
course, they rushed the room to get to the doctor to tell him what had happened. And the neurologist came walking back in. And he said, "So you guys think he's responded?" And John said, "Doc, he did respond. Watch this." They eventually got me to lightly squeeze his hand. He didn't hardly know what to say. We just kind of stepped back from the bed. I mean, an hour and a half earlier, he had nothing for my brain. And all of a sudden, he's having response to somewhat of commands, right? But he did meet my family later to say, "Look, I know it's exciting. I know that he's had some signs of life, but as his doctor, it's my job to make sure you're aware that Matt's in a comatose state." And he goes, "I have no way of knowing if he's coming out." And then he said, "Also understand this, if he does, when he does, he will not be the same person you once knew." They said he's got hematomas on both sides of his brain, which is blood clotting, blood pooling, but
right,
brain damage on both sides of my brain.
right,
On
right.
top of, he said some minor asphyxia from being buried for 5 or 6 minutes till I was uncovered, right? He said on top of that, as near as I can tell, looking at the scans of his spine, he'll unlikely ever walk again. And so my family had to lay there, watch me lay there, essentially lifeless, not knowing A, if I was even going to come out, and B, the condition of my body and brain if I did. And so, but they kept the faith and they kept believing and they talked in my ear and they prayed every day and they never let people talk negative and they never let any negative energy around me and they just kept pushing. And And I really believe that's a big part of it. Of course, I give most of the credit to God because I mean, I
Hey,
believe I got a miracle, but
yes.
10 days into the coma, something very special happened. They'll never be forgotten in my lifetime or theirs. I'm a father. Today, I'm a father of 7 kids. I've married into a few and adopted a few, and
Mm,
so, but I had three boys then, and my 3 boys were they're all in their late teens now, but in early 20s, but they were very young then. They'd
mm.
not been allowed to see their dad yet because, as you can imagine, seeing daddy hook the tubes and hoses and wires and stuff would have been a little bit scary and they wouldn't have been able to
Yeah,
understand that, right? So they
of
were told
course.
daddy got hurt real bad, needs to sleep for a while. But thinking I was sleeping, they were told we can pick up the phone though. We'll call your daddy. We'll put a cell phone in his ear and you can talk to your dad while he sleeps. They thought about that for a minute, and my oldest boy Connor, who's like 5 years old at that time, spoke up and said, we don't really want to call and talk to daddy. And they're like, my mom was like, why? And he's like, because we want to call and sing to him. Here's why. Before the Avalanche, I was a musician. Used to play guitar a lot, and I can't play guitar now because again, the chord hand that plays the chords is paralyzed, right? I can't play guitar, but I still play drums with one arm pretty well. But I was a musician and used to play and sing
Okay.
with my boys, and they would dance and sing the sound of my guitar, and they loved it.
Yeah.
And so they used to sing along best they could at that young age, and they told their mom they want to call and sing to me, and someone there said, "What song should we sing?" And they said, "Our favorite song, Never Let Go." Their favorite song was Never Let You. They call it Never Let Go. It's called You Never Let Go by Matt Redman. The chorus of the song sings out, "Oh no, you never let go through the calm and through the storm. Oh no, you never let go in every high and every low. Oh no, you never let go. Lord, you never let go of me."
Mm,
And so they want to sing that song. So they called their daddy to come and they put a cell phone in my ear and they sang "You Never Let Go"
mm,
to their daddy in a coma. And I
mm,
really truly believe that I have no memory of this, but at that moment they recorded the fact that I raised my eyebrows and tried to smile. I clearly could hear my voice singing. And I truly believe that at that point a miracle of some kind of happened during that song because I didn't come out of the coma and stand up by any means, but I began to, from that point forward, I began to show more response to stimuli, more signs of life, and began to show more hope. Right, that was day 10. It wasn't day till day 41 that I was officially out. But I came out, and when I came out, the doctor was right, man. I was not the same person.
mm,
He warned my family I would not be, and they gave me a pen, asked me to write my name, and because I could barely speak, and I couldn't write my name or letters. I could write scribbly lines. I couldn't even write the alphabet. Couldn't write nothing.
mhm,
And then they began to do different cognitive tests with me, and it was really scary. I was like a child in a man's body, right?
Jeez.
And so they began to just do different therapies, trying to get my brain to see where my brain was at and see if it could redevelop it. And then they got me out of bed into a wheelchair. I could not walk and began to push me around. And then they began to do physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, cognitive therapy.
Mm.
Every day I
Everything.
would just get out of bed and go therapy again. And then I'm mixing in some surgeries on my neck and some surgeries in my facial bones and my femur was broke, things like that, and get all that kind of stuff taken care of as well. And then, but I was hospitalized for 88 straight days. And I got to tell you, man, I don't think I got to explain to you that 88 days in the hospital is basically like
Mm,
being in prison because you can't leave, you can't help yourself, you can't do anything. So 3 months hospitalized, and I got to go home, which was exciting to go home. But
mm.
the problem was going home was also the biggest challenge
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
because I was in the hospital, I was always taken care of, and I didn't have to face my world yet, right? I wasn't facing the real world, but when I went home, I was realized that I was going back to a world that did not know me anymore, and I essentially did not know my world. I mean, I left that world 3 months prior as an athlete, and I came back barely. At that point in time, I could barely walk with a cane, just
Yeah.
hobble along really slow, and I was falling down all the time, having some issues. But they wanted me to be in a wheelchair in the beginning, but I refused. I wanted to be on a cane 'cause I knew if I got stuck in a wheelchair, I would never get out.
Mm,
So I kept
mhm.
pushing and pushing. So, but I had to come back and accept reality that I had to fall into an at-home routine of therapy and rest for a long time.
No, no,
And
Matt. Uh,
yes,
I, I want to ask because you went through some harrowing stuff. I mean, I thank God that you're alive and that you're here to share your story and to share it with others. But you get out of the hospital, you're a changed person. You're not the same man.
No, inside now, really. So yeah,
Right, right.
yeah.
You you had severe TBI, correct?
So I was when I came home, I was probably like preteen level maturity wise, right? Yeah.
How did that change the the chemistry, if you will, of being at home and you having to deal with the new you and your family having to deal with the new you?
Yeah, I mean, even just my kids being so young at that point in time. Unfortunately, their mom and I had divorced shortly before the avalanche, the prior year, and that was my, I guess my life was kind of avalanche, and I was making some bad decisions. But anyways, I wanted to see my boys because I loved them and I wanted to be with them, but I couldn't do it on my own. So I had to. Their mom had to be with me when I was with them, and so I had to go to her house to see them, and it was kind of weird, almost being like a child taking care of my children. See what I'm saying? Like it was like
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
even I couldn't even take him on my own. I couldn't drive at that point. I couldn't do anything like that. And so it was just, it was devastating. I mean, it was hard the only thing that kept me going was my faith in God for one, but
Yeah.
two is I had a belief, like a deep belief that I was not done yet, this is not going to be my reality. I'm not going to get stuck here. I'm not going to stop pushing. In fact, every time they give me a prognosis, I would just kind of like nod my head, okay, whatever. And I just refused to believe their prognosis of my they said I would never get off a cane. I would always have gait problems, balance problems, and today I walk without a cane freely, and I can even almost trot and jog, and I go on hikes with my kids, and I can do things, right? I live. And so
Mm,
I just refuse to believe those prognosis because I think if the problem is if you believe the prognosis and you go, okay, I guess that's just reality,
mm,
then that becomes your reality.
mm,
Whereas if you push beyond that and you go, I'm not done here, I'm gonna push, you can make that your reality instead.
mm,
So
mm.
not to say that it's always gonna be the case that way. Man, I got very fortunate to get the miracle working power of God behind me, but still I did have to make a lot of choices in the midst of that as well, you know. So
Indeed, indeed. I have a question here in the chat. It says, how did you overcome the depression that was tied to your ordeal?
well to be honest with you, in the early stages I almost didn't overcome the depression because I had a very near suicide. I'd come home with by far the worst injury of all the injuries, worse than breaking my neck, was that in my paralyzed hand, I got the dead arm. I can't use it, can't feel it, can't do anything with it, right? But
Mm,
in this arm and hand, I had this unbelievable burning, nonstop nerve pain.
mm,
It's called phantom nerve pain, right?
mm,
Because
mm,
I can't be having pain from my arm, it's dead. So the place of injury at the spinal cord is sending the brain a false signal that says your hand hurt, hand and arm hurt. So if your brain is being told that your arm hurts, it hurts nonstop, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and medication does very little for it because it's phantom, right? It's a false source. And so
mm,
they would medicate me. I was at one point I was on 8 hydrocodone, a few Lyric, and a few OxyContin all in one day, just to be numb to the pain. And I cut it back as far as I could, but basically I was stuck. All they could tell me for remedy because of the complexity of the injury, all they could tell me was long-term medication is your remedy, long-term medication. So I'm just in there going, I'm gonna be a drug addict for life
mm,
and still be in pain because it doesn't do much for it, right?
mm, mm, mm,
And so sometimes even on medication, I wake up like middle of the night with these weird pulsations. That happens sometimes during the day, more at night though. They would like drive down, pull back, and dry, burn, pull back. These weird pulsations and intense pain, like so much so that my I would cry some nights till my pillowcase was damp, and I was living by
yeah,
myself at that
yeah,
point.
yeah.
One time I woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning, these unbelievable pulsations again, and I was crying, and I began to yell at God, and I said, God, you didn't get the job done right the first time. It's time for me to finish this.
Mm,
And I already thought through how I was going to do it. I got my snowmobile gear bag out of the closet, began to piece on my riding gear, and pull my pants in place and pull my boots in place, and
mm,
my plan was to gear up, head to toe all my snowmobile riding gear. I was driving some of this point. I was going to drive down the nearby big bridge over the Snake River, put the helmet from the avalanche back on my head, and jump off. What I
Mm.
told God was, you didn't get the job done right the first time. I'm going to gear up, pull the helmet back on, and finish this crap, right? And I was
Yes.
pissed,
Yes.
and I was serious, and I was done, and I was, in fact, I was gearing up. I was getting my gear on, and right as I was pulling my jersey into place to put my before I put my jacket on, I guess you could say God knew what would stop me not dead but alive in my tracks. He uh, he brought back a thought right then of my middle son Ethan, and Ethan's 18 now. But at that point in time, he was very young, only like 3. And so he has a special personality. He loves dogs. He has his own dog now, but did not have his own dog then. But his grandparents' dog Sadie was his dog. He took care of her and bathed her and walked her, and he loved that dog. She was a black lab, and he just loved her, right? Well, recently before this suicide, I thought Sadie had died of old age, and Ethan was just completely crushed. I mean, he was just like, "How can my dog be gone? He's so young, he didn't understand the permanence of death, you know." And one day, like 5 days after the dog had died, I found him crying by himself in his bedroom. I went in there and nudged up to him, and I said, buddy, what's wrong?" He said, "Daddy, my doggy's gone. She's never gonna come back. She's gone, Daddy, she's gone." And I tried to encourage him. I said, "Buddy, it's okay. She's in heaven. You get to see her again someday."
Mm.
And the thought that came back in the middle of the suicide is what Ethan had said at that point was, "But Daddy, I don't want her to be in heaven. I want her to be here with me."
Mm.
And I, I, I'm going to make a bold statement. Some people think it's crazy, but I truly believe it's the only time in my life that I've ever heard the audible voice of God, because I heard some kind of audible voice, right?
Mm.
Still small, deep voice said, "Matt, his doggy's gone. He's crushed. What happens if his daddy's gone?" And that was it, man. I fell back in the bed, began to just gush, tears, weep. And I raced that plan from the
Yeah.
drawing board. I mean, how can I
Mm.
take my life, relieve myself of my pain, right? But leave my boys with a lifetime pain, missing their daddy. And so thank God I didn't do that, because, my oldest now is 20, and we're close, and I'm just loving life with my kids, and I'm remarried now and got more kids. I mean, thank God I didn't take my life. But
Amen.
so I'm human, right? I'm not Superman. I'm not powerful. I'm,
Mm-hmm.
I have a good mindset, but even in the midst of that kind of adversity, it's really hard not to want to just end it. But now, as time went along, as I began to race that plan on the drawing board, eventually, thank God I didn't take my life, because I found a surgeon in Chicago. He and his dad had pioneered the surgery to fix this. They went into a spinal cord surgery where they took a hot electric needle and put lesions across those nerve roots that send the false signal. It was a very risky surgery, but it was worth it, because I have some pain today, but I'm on the light dose of a non-narcotic nerve pain med. I'm on nothing narcotic anymore. I feel
Mm-hmm.
normal. I feel great. I'm cognitively sound. I'm good, right?
Yes.
So thank God I didn't take my life. But as time went along, I realized that the only way I was going to get out of that depression funk was I had to get the spotlight off of me. And so I began to do like hospital visitations and nursing visitations and recovery home visitations, and begin to meet people who are worse off than I was, and encourage them and pray with them, and just be with them. And as I began to realize I still have something to be thankful for. I can still walk, I can still talk, I can still think, I can still move, and so I think that was a huge part of it. But then a big part too is that once I began writing my book at home, going through my recovery, a lot of the book is written from the pain of the recovery. But
Mm-hmm.
as I began to see the story slowly unfold, because it unfolded slowly, I typed the entire thing with one hand. 184-page book pecked out with one hand, so it's slow, right? but
It
but
was a
either
long
way,
process.
but it went slow enough that I began to see it unfold slowly and realize there's
Yeah.
still more positive than there's negative. I found more positive things of my new life. Wasn't the life I used to live. I didn't lose my life. I gained a new life. And so I
Mm.
began to check off what I did have, not what I don't have. Because you can make a long list of the don't haves, haven't done, can't do's. All that does is produce more of the same, right?
Mm.
So I had to produce a list of what I do have, what I can do, and the things that I can be, and the places I can go. And as I began to make that list, the suicide thoughts just kind of just slowly but surely dissipated, because I mean, even though I live I still live in pain, right? I still have
Sure.
neck pain,
Sure.
muscle pain, and everything else, but I don't.
Yeah.
it's not hopeless, right?
Just get it, it's life giving you that little reminder. That's
Yep.
all. And listening to you, explain how things, went for you. It, I'm again, I'm grateful that you're here to explain your story to me. And I want people that's listening to this to really take heed to life,
Yeah. Yeah.
because you think that because things aren't going the way that you want it to go, that's just life happening,
Right.
right?
Right.
But life can always be, you know, life can turn up, as they say. It could turn up for you.
Yeah. Yep.
It could end up in a very bad position. And the beautiful thing about your scenario, Matt, is that you you've matured enough and had the faith to take this negative and flip it.
Yeah.
You said something to me during our initial interview, and I'm gonna read this because this goes along to what you were saying. You said respond to adversity, not react.
Yep.
Get better or bitter.
Yep. It's true. There's only two choices. If you try to camp out in the middle,
Yeah,
you'll gravitate towards bitter. You just
yeah.
will. You
There
have to
is no
choose
gray.
life every day. You have to choose better every day. And if you don't,
Yeah.
you'll gravitate towards bitter. It just happens because that's just human nature.
Mm-hmm.
And even I look at if you're around me very much, you hear me say that you can either let life happen to you
Mm.
or you can go make life happen for you, right?
Come on now.
If you don't do anything at all, life will happen to you over and over and over again. But
Period.
if you take the driver's seat and take charge and have passion, emotion, and just have some drive involved in life, you will let make life happen for you,
Indeed.
not letting life happen to you. So,
Indeed, brother. Indeed. Now
and
you
I'm not
spoke
saying I'm
about
perfect, man. I still have bad days. I still struggle. I still have times when I ask my wife, I cry sometimes. Man, it's frustrating, right? Because
absolutely. Absolutely.
so many times you want to grab something with two hands, you realize, oh my gosh, I don't have two hands. What do I do? So, especially if
Absolutely.
you're by yourself. So.
You got a good one, you can use it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's just exactly what you have to do at that point. Go, okay, I don't have two, but I still got one.
Yeah,
I still got
exactly.
one. So,
Speaking of two hands, that's the title of your book,
yep.
correct? Two
Yeah, it's
hands.
called Two Hands, A Life Radically
Two
Changed in
hands.
12 Seconds. And the
Two hands.
significance there is from the time that avalanche fractured to the time I was crushed into the tree and buried was 12 seconds.
Mm,
So in 12 seconds, your life can turn radically upside down. And so my life was radically changed in 12 seconds.
mm,
And yours can too, in 12 seconds or less, right? I mean,
mm,
just
mm.
and it made me so much more thankful for every breath I breathe and every day I get to with my kids and every moment I get to spend. And I mean, you just appreciate life so much more after almost losing it.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And yeah, people we just take life for granted, you
Yeah.
know, and you have people like yourself, that's out there doing the work to explain to folks that life does freaking happen.
Yeah.
But in all of that, even in your downtime, brother, God still showed up.
Yep. Yep.
God still showed up for you.
Yep.
If you didn't hear that auditory voice from God, brother, we wouldn't be talking.
No, I'm dead. Man, my
It's it's
boys are
it
without a
was it's
daddy,
a
you know what I'm
wrap.
saying? So,
It's a wrap.
yep.
You already had it in your head.
Yeah.
This is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it.
Yeah. I was pissed, man. I was ready. I
And,
was done. So, yeah.
man, you had a right to be, but God said no.
Right.
God
And
said
he has the bird's eye view, man. He can see 10 years down the road. We can only see right now.
yeah,
So he knew it was coming and he knew he could use me. And what's crazy is I shock people when I tell them this, but if I could go back and change everything that's happened and erase all of it and get my life back, get my money back, get my status back, get my position back,
mm,
I wouldn't take it back. I'd shatter that plate on the floor
Mm.
because I don't want to be the old Matt anymore. I want to be the new Matt. I want to be what life created me to be. And
Come on, man.
adversity made me a man that nothing else could have made me, you know?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Um, and so if that's what God took to get the job done, then so be it. I mean, I don't think God made this happen. I
Mm,
made it happen, right? I set off the avalanche, but God allowed it to happen to me so I
mm,
could be changed and transformed. So
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And speaking of transformation, uh, I want to ask you what else are you doing in your journey to transform your life, but also transforming others?
I mean, I've written my book, obviously, and I'm writing more books right now. I've got two I'm working on right now. One is called Real Relationships, REAL in caps, Real Relationships, the glue
Mm-hmm.
of life. And the other one is called The Short Little Book for a Long, Big Life. And so I just want to keep doing that and inspiring people with reading and audiobooks. And then I do a podcast every week called Monday Morning Minutes with Matt. It's M4 podcast, Monday Morning Minutes with Matt, so M4. So I do that, and then man, I just I still do hospital visitations. I still do school visitations. I still mentor young kids who need somebody to talk to, and I still speak in high schools and sports camps and business conferences and business safety meetings and I speak all over the place. Every church I can get into, I get into churches as well, and so I just gonna keep spreading the good news. I'm saying so, and then helping
Sure.
people know that there is hope. There's the good news is there's hope that no matter how low you get, no matter how bad it seems, no matter how much you feel like this is it, live by what you know, not what you feel, and then keep on pressing on. So,
Mm, 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 mm. If anybody has any questions to ask of Matt, please do so. Um, I am I'm just in awe of your story, brother, and I'm just taking it all in. And I have questions I already have written down, but I think that this is a moment where you know I just be me talking to you. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
I like it,
Having a
man.
man-to-man
I
conversation,
like
and
organic conversations.
yeah,
I
yeah,
really like
because you're
it.
you're educating me on some things. You're educating me on appreciating the trials and tribulations.
It's good. I'm
You're
glad
you're educating me on uh keep moving, even when you don't feel like moving
you
anymore.
have to. Yeah.
When you feel like throwing in the towel, one more day,
Yep.
one more day, man. Maybe something good might happen at the, what I'm saying, at the end of that day, but one
Mhm.
more day, you know, don't
Speaking of
give
one
up.
more day, one of the things I put on the wall beside my bed at my at-home recovery,
Mm,
I saw it every morning on the walls, an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper with big bold print said, "What can I do today better than I did yesterday? What can I do today better than I did yesterday?" Because even if it's only this much better, just one little
yeah,
increment better, it's better than going diving off the deep end, right?
indeed.
So if you can go incrementally better, then you'll get better. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it goes back to what you're saying
one
too.
day.
Uh, if your thoughts are negative, that's what you feed.
Yep,
If your
exactly.
thoughts are positive, that's what you feed. So
Yep,
continue to feed that positivity.
yep, exactly.
You know, yeah. Now you also mentioned to me in our interview that you got involved into speaking. You
Yep.
evolved from that to speaking.
Yeah, yep.
Talk to me about how that door opened for you. Talk about how that door opened for you.
Well, that door's it's not that it necessarily opened. I had to pry it open because it's hard. It's hard to get into it. Um, Initially in the very beginning, I started just doing messages for free, just to different banquets and luncheons, and but then it started catching on. Then I got into a few schools for free, and then I began to get paid by schools, and then slowly but surely my fee just went up because I got noticed and got recommended,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
now even now it's still a challenge to stay busy all the time, but I just have to market myself, keep myself out there, and I look for events and I email my stuff to them, and I still market myself to make myself available to speak, and so uh, the door opened up because I pried it open, but now once you get going, it's just I can't describe to you the fulfillment it brings you to speak to an audience, especially I mean high school audiences are my lowest paying audience because the budget's not there, but they're my favorite audience by far. I'm not motivated by the money. The
Mm-hmm.
impact is unbelievable in high school. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I see kids passion tissue and crying and leaning on each other's shoulders and
Yeah.
rubbing backs because they're encouraging somebody because there's so many people that connect. They connect with the story like it's life, it's real. They can go, okay, either I am or I'm not going through something as extreme as he is, but either way I'm going through something like that because everybody faces this problems, kind of adversity of some kind, right? So all these kids can relate to that, and so they touch the story and they it touches their heart, and then I begin to share a message of reacting versus responding and
Mm.
why that matters so much. And I begin to share about their attitude, why that matters so much. And then I talk to them about discipline or regret. That I use one of Jim Rohn's quotes says, "In life, we all must face one of two pains, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret." Then he goes on to say, "The difference is discipline weighs ounces while regret weighs tons." And so I ask him, "All right, guys, are you going to face ounces or tons?
Mm.
Discipline or regret?"
Mm.
And so it applies to all areas of life for every age group, really. You know, are you going to face ounces or tons? And so I love it. I want to get in front of as many audiences as I can, not because I want to be famous, not
Yeah.
because I want to be well known, but because I want to impact lives.
Indeed,
So
brother.
if you got a school or a sports camp or a church or I do a lot of business safety meetings because I was technically riding snowmobiles at the pro level, and so I was on the job that day, right? And everything went everything that was normal, everything was mundane, everything was like it usually is, and then boom, one thing goes wrong. What if we'd not been prepared? What if we'd not had avalanche beacons on? What if we'd not had shovels and probes and all the stuff we had? And the answer is I'd be dead, and three boys without their daddy, and so
Mm-hmm.
this and I guess seven kids now without their daddy. So
Mm.
so it's
Mm.
it's pretty cool. So if you guys out in anyone in the audience has anyone that can benefit from my presentation and message, man, I'd love to be part of your group and influence your organization. So,
Awesome, man. Do you miss snowmobiling?
oh man, I mean, I I'd be lying to my teeth if I said it. And I still ride a little bit with one arm. It's still hard. It's hard to ride with one arm, but I can do it. In fact, this last winter in 2023, I think 2022 actually, I took my boys, my all three of my boys, I took them because they're old enough now to ride snowmobiles and handle them. So I took them back to the Avalanche site for the first time, and so I still ride a little bit, but I mean, I can't ride at the level I used to ride. I don't own a snowmobile anymore, but I miss it all the time. When I smell snow in the air, I see the guys going out to ride it. I just
Mm.
just itch to do it,
Yeah.
and it doesn't scare me. I don't hate it. I'm not bitter towards it. I still
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
sport didn't get me. I mean, my risk got me, and the avalanche got me. The snow got me, you know. So,
Mm. Mm.
um, but yeah, I
Yeah.
miss it every day, every day in the wintertime at least. But
Indeed.
I got rid of all my snowmobile gear and we bought a big 24-foot party barge pontoon boat. So we
Nope.
have all the kids out on the
Pronto.
boat, kneeboarding and tubing and swimming. So yeah, that's my new sport. So
It's dope, man. That's dope.
yeah.
Uh, so you have anything going on in the future as far as building your name and putting yourself out there?
I think just continue to get out there and get known and build my following and just not again not to be famous and not to be known, but because I want to be impact lives. But with the
Mm.
books coming out, I plan to write at least 5 books. And also, my wife and I also run a an at-home business, a life insurance company, selling life insurance and annuities, and so I help people with that as well. And I've helped a lot of families get in a good situation there. So I have that going on as well as the extra income source. And so I just I'm living life, man. I'm loving it, you know. So
Yes, yes. If you ran into a kid that was going through some adversities, Matt, what would you tell him to keep him encouraged?
you know, the number one thing I would always share with people if the time if it presents itself is people ask me for what's the number one concept in your recovery, like for your successful recovery, you have to pick one concept. What is that concept? And I say it's focus on things you can change. So I tell the kids all the time, guys, if you can't change it, don't waste time, energy, passion, motion on things you cannot change because that waste all the time that you could spend on things you can change,
Mm,
and waste all the energy you could spend on things that you can change. And so I say, focus on things you can change. If they're facing a problem, I always say, can you change it?
mm,
Can you do anything about it? And if a lot of times
mm,
the answer is no,
mm.
well, let's focus on what you can change. Let's let that be, let that lay, and let's focus on what you can change. And a lot of times, the only person, the only thing you can change in this situation is the person in the mirror, right? You can change
It
you.
is.
And so that's a lot of what I teach is just bare basic stuff. And just focus on things you can change. Be the change you want to see. Um,
Yeah.
make life happen for you, not to you. And so just all little things like that, you know. So
Can I borrow that?
which one's that?
I'm writing it down. Focus on things you can change.
Yeah. You know what's funny is that before the avalanche even happened, I had that in a full size sheet of paper on the inside of my binder at work, and bold print said, "Focus on things you can change." So I was already my thought processing, but yeah, I
Yeah.
put it to practice 100%. You know?
Man, I swear I'm going to get a piece of paper and put it in bold letters and put it somewhere where I can see it every day, you
Well, and the
know?
second part of that is be the change you want to see, right? You can't
Ooh,
not gonna change without you. You got to be the change you want to see. So
you preaching, Matt.
let's have a speech. Let's do it. I'm ready.
You are preaching to me. Matt, how can people contact you?
You know, there's various ways on different social media channels. I'm pretty much on all of them, but they can also go to my website, which is liferadicallychanged.com, and then you're going to put a link to that in the notes there. Or if you something simple, just go to mattmotivates.com. It goes to the same website, mattmotivates.com, and you can go check out my story and video of the avalanches on there and video of what I used to do when I was riding pros on there and all that stuff is on
Mhm.
there. But there's also my phone number, my direct phone's on there, my email's on there. All that those contact forms come directly to me, and so I sometimes can't keep up with it. But I do between my wife and I we do, and so I always love to reach out and touch people one on one and encourage people. So
Indeed, brother.
like I said, either social media or the website. The website has social media links too, so it's all right there. So
Okay. Okay. You heard it from Matt himself. The information is mattmotivates.com or liferadicallychanged.com.
yep.
I will post those sites on my YouTube channel
Okay.
so that if anybody wants to reach out to you, they have that information.
Sounds good.
Matt Potratz, it has been a pleasure to take the time out to talk with you. Uh, I appreciate you, sir.
Yeah, man. I've had a good time. It's been a great conversation. I love the organic conversation. So
Yeah, I really do appreciate it. And man, you got my email. Please stay in contact with me, brother, and just say hi, or I'll reach out
yeah,
to you and say hi. But
yeah. If you ever want to have me back, if you ever have me back on the show, we can talk about something else too. So I'm always
amen,
I'm game
amen to
on.
that,
So
amen to that. Good deal, brother. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of the Speak Your Truth with Mark Ross podcast. Remember, everyone, self-care is important. So please make your mental health and your physical health a priority. Do it every day and do it first. With that being said, Matt, you have a good rest of your day, brother.
thanks, man. Appreciate it. Thanks. Have a
I
good day.
appreciate you. Have a
See you.
good one.
Peace
All right.
out.
Bye-bye.
See you.
Bye-bye.